And welcome back. Unless you're new here, and then it's just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And we are going to now talk about, as if it's a surprise, Eden's Lake. This is one of the most, if not the, in my opinion, the most brutal survival horror film that was ever been made so far, in my opinion. For several reasons, which we will get to. But yes, Eden Lake. Now, Eden Lake was released in 2008. It was directed by James Watkins. It was written by James Watkins. And it stars Kelly Reilly, Michael Fassbender, Tara Ellis, and Jack O'Connell, you evil mother. You dirty little yobby ass, yardy little punk. I hate you. I'll beat that mother. Anyway. His character, not him. But, yeah. Brett is so evil. Oh my god, that boy is evil. Just evil. That's Damien? Oh, please. Damien's got nothing. Damien's more of the big picture kind of evil. Brett is like the hands-on, in-your-face, psycho kind of evil. He's the king of that. So, we are introduced to school teacher Jenny and her boyfriend Steve. Now, he is going to take her on a surprise little trip to Eden Lake, to a lake, to camp overnight for the weekend, before the area is developed into a gated community. So, and that's one of the political. So this movie has some political nuances. It applies here as well, but it was actually making some social statements about the youth in England. That's what this movie was about. But it definitely applies to the U.S. twice over, in my opinion. But, so, this is the first one. It's going to be a gated community. Why do we need gated communities? Well, after you see this motherfucker, you know why you need gated communities, and I think that's one of the social commentaries that was being made. So they get there and they set up camp. Right as they get there, they do meet this little school kid named Adam. He's this little schoolboy. He's out there looking at bugs and stuff. And they go on to the beach and they set up camp. And then we have this group of yobs. Fucking estate yardy trash is what they are. Pikey scum. But they show up and you can just tell, The youngest one's about 12. His name is Connor. Is it Connor? I think it's Connor. If it's not Connor, we'll find out. Because I have it wrote down. And it's, of course, led by Brett. He's like 16, 17. He's the oldest. And it filters down. There's 5 boys and 1 girl. So, they're over there making all kind of noise, carrying on. They got a stupid dog with them. It looks like a pit bull mix of some kind. So you have, Mr. Classy and his school teacher girlfriend. And then you've got these punk pikey yobs. So they're sort of irritating each other, and they begin to get irritated at their behavior. Steve actually goes and confronts them, trying to be a badass, which a lot of people who watch this movie say if he had not done that, if he had not tried to exert and all of that, that none of this would have happened. Really, I don't agree. I was raised on an estate. I can tell you, I don't agree. Okay. I do believe it would have happened anyway because of Brett, the mindset of Brett. This would have happened regardless of him being a little, because he is a little tight ass. Steve, he's a tight ass. There's no doubt about it. He's definitely looking down on them, but I would too. But of course, I was raised on an estate, so I could hang. You know what I'm saying? Come at me, bitch. Come at me. However, Steve, I think, is a little bit out of his element. So he goes over there and kind of confronts them, the 5 boys and the 1 girl. They end up, mouthing off, but they do eventually leave. And as they're leaving, they actually walk by them, and they don't do anything, but they walk by them. And Brett actually pulls his junk out, and they show it and shakes it at both of them, really. And you're like, well, that was interesting. We know he's a boy. So they go on, and then, during, I think, didn't they go back? Yeah, they went to town for one night. I think she was a little spooked at it all. They went to eat. They stayed at a bed and breakfast. They go back the next day and are going to spend the night. So they go back the next day, night, and they get to set up the tent, and they spend the day scuba diving and stuff like that. And they do kind of feel stalked, Steve does a good scare on her. The next morning, they go to leave to go back in town to get something to eat, and the tire is flat. So he has to fix that. They go to town. They actually see the gang, riding around on their BMXs. So he kind of, again, plays tightwad and goes after them. I'm going to go find out where they live and tell their mama. Little piece of advice for you. Kids that are acting like that, telling their mama or their daddy, don't do shit, because where the fuck do you think they got it from? Okay? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go, this trashy ass little kid is doing all this bad stuff. I'm going to go tell his daddy. Really? Who the fuck you think taught it to him? So he goes and he does that. He goes in there. The door's open. He goes into the house, which was very stupid of him. Goes upstairs looking around. Can't find anyone. The dad comes home. He nearly gets caught. He ends up going out the window and barely escaping. And believe me, when you see the dad, what I just said, which some people may be going, well, that's not necessarily true. Believe me, when you see the dad, yeah, it is. Okay? So they go ahead, they eat, and they go back to the lake. After they swim, they go swimming, they realize that their bag is gone, which has their car keys in it. They go and look for the car, and the car is gone. And that's when, this is when the shit really starts going down. They're looking all around for it. They almost get hit by them driving their car. The kids come and try to run them over. So they almost get hit. They finally find them. They look all day and can't find them. They finally find them that night, and Steve goes out there and confronts them, and it's I want my keys back. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. The keys, the keys to the car that you tried to run us over with. Come on, man. You've had your fun, blah, blah, blah. They get mouthy. The fight starts. They try to knife him. He manages to get the knife from them in the struggle. It actually kills Brett's dog, which was no great loss, in my opinion. But this, of course, sends Brett over the edge. The dog is killed. Um, they try to leave, but the kids come after them on their bikes and are like throwing rocks and stuff like that. And they get stuck. They manage to get unstuck after the car is pelted with rocks and shit like that, only to wreck. And Steve is like pinned by a tree limb. She gets out and runs to run for help. The Yobs get a hold of Steve. The morning comes. She ends up coming back to the truck because she can't find her way out. She's totally lost. She comes back to the truck. She finds him gone. She follows a blood trail where they find she finds them, and she kind of like stays in the bushes, but she finds them and they have him like tied up with barbed wire, and they're like torturing him. And I'm talking, this is Saw kind of shit. This is I Spit on Your Grave kind of shit. We're not talking about little stuff. This is some really brutal stuff that they're doing. Brett makes the girl, I can't think of her name, it should be wrote here somewhere. He makes her film it. And he makes each and every one of them take part and participate by making them go up and stab him and cut him. And one boy didn't cut him deep enough, so he made him cut him again. They're, of course, showing you all of this on the screen. So it's very gory. It's very bloody. She manages to use her connection on her phone to hook into his phone, which Brett has, and call 911, because it's sort of like, I didn't know if you could do this. I mean, I don't know if you knew you could do this, but because it's Bluetooth or something, she's able, because she doesn't have the signal, but she's able to connect to his phone and use his phone to dial 999 or 911 in America. So she manages to get the phone call going, and they answer and everything, but Brett sees it on the phone and he disconnects. So that's when he goes, that bitch is here somewhere, right here. She connected to this phone. They see her, and then you have like one of the best chase scenes ever. I got ahead of myself. Paige is the girl's name. She's recording it. They make the youngest cut too. They make them all cut. Now, a couple of them are like vomiting and gagging, because you have to see this movie to see how brutal and gross what they're doing is. So Jennifer tries 999, but they catch her. They chase her. While they're gone, Steve gets loose. And she hides at a construction site. It's extremely. This movie will make you extremely anxiety-ridden. You know, very, very well filmed. So she ends up escaping them when they can't find her at the construction site because she's on the roof of the shed. Now, she tries to get away, and Steve almost hits her. And so they're finally back together. They end up finding a cabin where she tries to clean him up, but let me tell you, okay, there is no way that this dude is not fixing to die. He is so stabbed up, he is so cut up, that she tries to lie, but he's not even that stupid. You know, as hopeful as you may be. So, but, you know, they keep the game up. He had brought a ring with him to propose to her, which he does at this time because she finds it on him. She ends up putting it on her finger, and now the girl is getting tired of this shit. You know what I mean? So, you know what they say about the quiet ones. So they end up in that cabin, where she's trying to clean him up and all this takes place. Well, here comes the little Yawp gang, and they end up managing to get under the floor into the water. They come in. They know they've been there. There's blood everywhere. They leave. She ends up pulling him up onto the shore and hiding him with leaves because she's got to go try to find help. He knows he's dying. She knows he's dying. But, so she takes off. As she's running, she does find the power pillars, the towers. So she thinks if she follows them, it can lead her out of this gigantic state park, which, if you're in America, you know how big state parks are. Well, there's a lot of them in England that are that big too. So she is trying to find out, and then, oh my God, of course, she steps on this big giant spike, that they use to build these towers. That thing goes all the way through her foot. And so she has to get down on the ground on a log and push it the rest of the way through. It was a very, very horrible scene. So she's pretty much gimped at this point. She ends up getting away from them. She ends up running across Adam. Remember the little kid we saw at the beginning? So she ends up running across him. And she's like, can you help me? I need to talk to your mom. So he says that his mom is coming to pick him up. So he takes her to this little clearing. And you start kind of going, is this kid setting her up? Well, yes. She figures it out right as Brett and them arrive. So she tries to fight him, but it doesn't do any good. They knock her out. And she wakes up tied back to back with Steve because they had found him and finished mutilating him and killing him. So she wakes up to dead, tied to Steve. It's like a pole. She's on one side, he's on the other. He's very, very, very dead. And they're throwing petrol on them, and it wakes her up. And they're like, "Oh my God, she's not. I thought she was dead. She's unconscious. She was just unconscious." Well, they're going to burn her anyway. So now that they have drawn this little kid, now Adam is the youngest now. That Cooper guy, he's like 12. Well, Adam is about 10. So Brett makes him light the fire, and they're burning. Now, because they're on Steve's side, so Steve's in flames, it's melting the ropes that have him tied to her. She manages to break free and takes off. And that's when Brett grabs that little boy, Adam, and puts a bicycle tire. Well, actually, it looked kind of like a four-wheeler tire. It's only about that big, but it's a little 10-year-old, so it fits over him. Puts it over his shoulders, pours petrol all over him, and is like, if you don't come back, I'm going to set him alight. Well, she keeps running because, come on. She keeps running, and Brett does it. And you hear this kid screaming, and it will disturb you. And she screams herself because she couldn't do anything. And you even see it over her shoulder. That little boy is on fire from like the breast up, right? It's like a matchstick. And that was fucking awful. So she keeps on running, she manages to find like a trailhead, and it's got the map. You are here, you know. So she breaks the glass and she takes the map, and she hears them coming. So she goes and hides in the trash bin, you know, in the skip, which is disgusting, right? I don't know what the fuck is in that. Dead animals and all kind of shit. But she hides in it, and they come. They see that she has the map, but they know she's hurt. She can't get too far. So they take off. She gets back out, and she goes over there, and she rips part of her dress off and wraps it around a big shard of glass and makes a sticker. So, she is now completely raging, and she makes a knife from the shard, and then that's when Cooper, the 12-year-old, he like walks up behind her, and she doesn't really see him at first, but you see him walking up behind her, you know, with his bike, walking up behind her. Now, what he was going to do, I don't know. Because when he gets close enough to her, he doesn't make any aggressive move. Instead, he just says, "Miss," which is what students call teachers in school in England. They just call them, "Hey, miss," you know. So he's like, "Miss," and chick looks up, sees his reflection, spins around, and puts that shard right through this 12-year-old's neck. And this ain't off-screen shit. None of this shit is off-screen. I mean, well, whatever they finally did to Steve was off-screen, but you know what? They couldn't have done anything worse than what they showed you them doing to him. So, she puts that shard right through that kid's neck. And it's a very ugly, very disturbing death, because it's just gushing, and she can't believe what she did. She falls to her knees, holds him in her arms, and he like is making these awful sounds that you just wish he would stop making while he dies all over her. It becomes night again. The Yobs, they end up finding Cooper, and John, he like freaks out. Now this is one of the two. It was Cooper and John are the two that was like not really happy about all of this. They vomited when he made them do stuff. So John, he kind of freaks out, and Brett gets so mad at him that he murders him right there in front of Paige. I mean, he stomps his skull in. It was like really, really bad. I mean, this boy needs to be taken out really, really bad. So he kills John. Jen finally does find a road. So she's pretty much made it out. She finds a road, and that's when this guy picks her up. He's like, "What's going on?" You know, and she gets in the car. And she's like, "You know, we've got to go to town. Take me to town." And he's like, "Well, okay, I will. But hold on, I got to pick up my little brother." And she's like, "Excuse me?" So he actually pulls up to the gate. And he gets out, and he goes out, and he's like screaming for his brother. Like, you know, "You little dumbass, you know, mom's going to beat your ass, whatever, come on." That's when we see Brett and Mark walk up to him. She sees this as well. Her fears are confirmed. He's the brother of one of those Yobs. Now, he didn't know anything about this. But she takes that car, and she speeds off. Now, as she's speeding away, that fucking Paige girl, walks out in front of her. But I'm not talking like a dog that ran out in front of you. She walks out in front of her, like way down there. Jennifer sees her, or Jenny sees her, and is like, yeah, bitch. And she punches it. And Paige just stands there, probably like, there's no way that woman's going to hit me. She creamed that bitch, killed her instantly. Bash, flipped over the car, fell dead, eyes open, she's gone. I totally agreed with that. As a matter of fact, well, we'll talk about that. So, she gets out. She's driving like a bat out of hell. She ends up like skidding and running into this corner, sort of like a electric pole, and she gets out and she starts running across the yard. She can hear music playing, and she goes up to this house and they're like having a pool party. It's adults, so it's all these adults. So she runs up and she's at this house and it's a pool party. And if you look closely, you will go, wait a second. Those pictures on the wall, isn't that what Steve saw earlier in the film? So it actually gave it away right there, but you had to be paying attention because the pictures on the wall, you're like, wait, those are pictures of Brett. She's at fucking Brett's house. That's Brett's daddy, so when Brett's daddy comes in, you definitely know it then, right? So they're all trying to help her though. They're like, oh, you poor thing, let's call the ambulance. Now, while this is going on, their phone rings. The mom, Brett's mom, the phone rings. So everything is very, very frantic because she's realizing where she is after seeing those pictures. The mom's phone's ringing. She's like, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to be sick. So this woman's like, yeah, sure. Let me take you to the bathroom. Now, while she's in the bathroom, I don't know how to got out that motherfucker. I would have dug through the wall. You know what I mean? And it had a weird window. It's got one of those windows. If you, I don't know how to explain it. The window looks like little blocks of glass, and it's real thick. So I don't know how easy that would be to break, or if that's breakable. But somehow, I don't know how it got out of it. I don't know. Tasmanian devil through the roof or something. Because she is hearing them through the door that she's locked. She's hearing them scream and cry. And that's because she knows what's going on. Brett is on the phone with them, telling them all these kids are dead. Probably blaming it on her and Steve. So you're like, I can't believe this shit. And she ends up finding a straight razor in the cabinet. And you hear Brett's dad like banging on the door. And he busts open the door. And the mom is like, you killed our little one and stuff like that. And she's like, what do you do? She's trying to tell them, like, these motherfuckers are crazy. These motherfuckers just murdered my boyfriend and have like been terrorizing and tormenting us for 2 days. And you're definitely like going, what the fuck is fixing to happen? What would you do? I don't know. This is bad. This is really bad. And so she starts screaming for them to call the police, and they're like, no, we're not going to call the police. And she like slashes Brett's dad's arm down the thing. And then you just hear him like scream, put her in the tub. And the parents are all screaming because they're finding out that, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody's dead except for Mark, who had a very little role in this. But Mark and Brett, that's it. All the rest of them are dead. So the parents are all finding out, and you see the three men walk into the bathroom and slam the door after throwing her in the tub, and you hear blood-curdling screams from her, and the movie goes off, and you're just left. Yeah. Man, I remember I told Miss Carter, because Miss Carter loves this movie. I told Miss Carter, Miss Carter was like, yeah, that ending, man, that's a fucked up ending. And a slap in the face or a spit in the face is what she called it. I'm like, no, it wasn't a spit in the face. The ending of this movie is like a slasher stab through your heart. Better than Jason could ever do. Because when you watch this movie, it is so intense. And you are so happy that she got away. And I'm sorry, but I agreed with everything. And Brett, who shows up right before they put her in the tub and kill her, obviously, in that bathroom, he shows up and his daddy slaps him across the face and makes him go upstairs, where he then goes upstairs, stares in the mirror while she's screaming down there, stares in the mirror and putting on Steve's sunglasses and looking at himself like, I'm the king. And you're just left going, this is not fair in any way, shape, or form. And that's true. It's not. But you know what? I think that every once in a while, you just have to not get your way in a movie. I have to suffer that many times watching movies. But, you just do not get your way in this movie. And the brutality of this movie. I mean, I felt for Cooper when she gutted him through the throat. But, I felt a little tiny bit for John when Brett stomped him to death. It's still a decision you made, man. You horribly tortured and burnt a man and tried to kill this other woman, and none of you are over 17. It's like Brett was 16, 17 tops, but I think he might have been 16. Paige and Mark were like 15. John was like 14. Connor was like 12, and then Adam was 10. So, and Mark was about 15. So these are young kids. This is a killer kid movie. Definitely goes in that genre as well. But seeing Brett get away, seeing her die, well, you assume. I know that straight razor wouldn't have got out of my hand. There would have been a hell of a lot of dead people. I mean, I just left a whole bunch of pikey yobs in the woods. There'd be a whole bunch of adults left dead in that house, too, before they took me out. That's all I got to say. I mean, you are talking about a straight razor here. All I need is one shot. Okay? I'll get your throat. So, this is like like I said, this is one of the most brutal movies that I've ever seen. And not only its intensity, not only in its extremely gratuitous violence, the gore, the torture, the behavior, the torment, but the ending, the actual story itself is painful to watch, and it really gets you, So not only are you upset by what you've seen, but the outcome. And the truth is, the social commentary is, kids like this do get away with it. And they did stand up. 5 of them were dead for their shit. But Brett got away. That happens a lot in England. Because they're soft. Very soft. You can butcher 3 people and they'll give you 12 years in jail. That's one thing about England. I love it, but you got a fucked up justice system in England. So, there was a lot of social commentary, but yeah, if you've never seen Eden Lake, you really should. It is one of the most intensely brutal survival horror movies you will ever run across. And that's it. I will see you in the next one. Always remember, never forget, you are a very, very special person. This is also a 10 out of 10. You're a very special person, even if you are not a trashy, pikey yob chasing down people that didn't do a damn thing to you because you got nothing better to do, and have no problem with just torturing, killing, cutting up, burning, and just murderous mayhem for no reason at all other than just to do it. And I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. If you've seen this, tell me what you think about it. If you haven't, you really should subject yourself to it. You'll regret it, but then you won't. That's the way all horror movies are. See you later.